Welcome back to Sampstra Games, the place to find new strategy games, and welcome to my All Objectives Complete guide for Unity of Command 2 Barbarossa DLC. Today we're going to be doing the Heeresgruppe Mitte. So let me first show you my HQs. HQ Mitte. Here we've got the feigned attack and the suppressive fire. PCQ. Here we've got the ability to build bridges and suppressive fire. If you had the set piece attack, it would be quite useful, but what can you do? And with the Panzergruppe 3, we have suppressive fire, rear guard, counter attack. Again, set piece attack would have been useful, but it's okay. We have the ability to build a bridge, and we do have the oversupply unit ability, which is quite useful. So let's go into the scenario. Now, a quick tip, if you're struggling with the game, they made a change that if you restart a scenario on easy or normal, you will gain a little bit of a bonus. So they give you, I think, extra supply hub or something like that. So if you're struggling a little bit, maybe just to start a scenario, you'll get that bonus. It'll make it a little bit easier for you. Obviously, that's not what we're doing here, but... All right, now let's jump to the tactics window. I'll explain to you how to do this scenario. Welcome back to the tactics window, where I'll show you how to do the Heeresgruppe Mitte scenario in the Unity of Command 2 Barbarossa DLC and how to get all the objectives. So first, we're going to talk about the main objectives. So we're going to start off by talking about Bialystok. How to get Bialystok? Well, on turn 1, you will want to take away the supply in Bialystok. There are multiple ways to do this scenario. I'm showing you the one that I did. So you're going to take away all of this supply, which means that all of these units will be out of supply at the end of turn 1. Then at turn 2, you're going to have to make sure that you are standing somewhere on this railway. And at the end of turn 3, you should be standing somewhere on this railway. Once you manage to do this, this will ensure that Bialystok is completely out of supply, essentially since turn 1 or since turn 2. So this will be huge because all of these units that are in this area are going to be super weak. This will allow you to move much easier further into Minsk and the other areas that you're going to need, but also taking over Bialystok is going to be super easy because all of these units will be out of steps or have suppressed steps. So this is really, really important. You need to take Brest on turn 2. There's no really tips here. Just make sure that ideally on turn 1 you build a bridge, or turn 0 essentially, so that you can walk through, or at least try to get your engineer units near the river so that you can get some good attacks. Then you're gonna need to take Grodno on turn 3. Here my recommendation is try to push as quickly in this direction in first turn 1 and 2, and then you're going to try to stand over here on turn 2, first of all for Bialystok, but also for Grodno. You will not be able to get Grodno to become out of supply, but you will be able to at least attack them from different directions and get multiple units in this area, because remember that there is a river here. So any attacks from this direction on Grodno are actually going to have a negative effect for you unless you have engineers. So being able to attack from the other side would have been useful as well. So that's Grodno. Then we've got Vilnius, Minsk. Oh yeah, so here we can see Vilnius, Minsk, and everything else. So you'll have to take Vilnius on turn 4. So because you've already moved on turn 2 kind of in this area, you just want to take the tanks and the other motorized units that you have over here and move them towards Vilnius. This is not an overly difficult fight. Just keep in mind that the units of Vilnius will be well supplied, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, as soon as you finish Grodno on turn 3, you want to push all your motorized units and tanked over this railway towards Minsk as quickly as possible. Even though you still have 4 turns to take Minsk, you're going to have to hurry very quickly, especially once you'll be able to take over Baranovici and have some other units take over Lida, you will be out of supply this entire area. Then over here it's Bialystok, which is already out of supply anyway. And this will make sure that the majority of enemy units will be very weak and will not be able to put up much resistance. Unfortunately, units in this area around Minsk and Borisov, you will not be able to outsupply them because they have this great supply away from Borisov. So there is going to be some strong combats, but otherwise you should be able to weaken them up pretty easily. So remember, from turn 2, we're moving towards Minsk as quickly as possible. Then you should take over Minsk around turn 6. I don't think you'll be able to get much faster. And then you'll have tanks and motorized units in this area. Then you want to split them up. Part is going to go towards Bobryansk and part is going to go towards Borisov. You'll have a lot of recon airplanes. Use them to see whether there is some resistance. For example, in my game, there was no resistance to Bobryansk, so I could just take one motorized unit, move them over here, and then go straight to Borisov. You'll have infantry here that you'll have left over from Grodno. You want to use them to take over Pinsk. Do not bother with motorized units. You're going to need them for Minsk and the other objectives over here. So just leave this for your infantry to take over the Pinsk, okay? And sometimes you might be able to take the motorized units and tanks that you have on Vilnius and move them down towards Minsk. It really depends on how the enemy moves their units, because in my run, the enemy took the majority of their units and kept them here, so I wasn't able to get down, but I was able to get through here. If your enemy is moving the majority of their units here, then you're going to be able to use the tanks from the top and get towards Minsk. Keep in mind that you need to keep Minsk and Bialystok, and those are the only 2 objectives that you need to keep control of. Everything else, once you take them, you can easily leave it. Bialystok is very easy because everybody's out of supply there, so no one can take it. But Minsk, keep it in mind that you have to keep it in control, so keep units around Minsk to use your zone of control to protect it. All right, let me show you how it's done. All right, welcome back from the tactics window. So first thing I did is I added some specialists. So I added the Stark IIIB specialist over here, and then another artillery over here. Also, I'm gonna, at the start of the next turn, I'm actually gonna build a bridge here, but it'll be better if you build the bridge on the first turn. And then I'm just adding some German infantry steps and things like that. This is going to be useful, but it's not necessary. If you have the prestige for it, why not? I'm also moving the supply hub, so I'm going to show you once they're all placed. Yeah. I'm going to show you now. Where the supply hubs are. So you can see over here, this is where the supply hubs is here and here. This unit is out of supply, but you can easily move it around. And you can see the objectives on the right. Now here we are moving towards Brest. It's really important that you try to get as many units as you can on the other side of the river next to Brest, because you need to take it upon the next turn. Another tip is you get your engineers right next to Brest. This is something that I haven't done, but it would have made the game a little bit easier for you if you did that. So try to get this infantry unit and this tank much closer to Brest instead of, for example, this unit. So the other ones would have been better. Here I'm just trying to attack this unit on the bottom, that's fine. Just continue. If I'm not mentioning the odds, you can just assume that I'm taking 1-to-1 odds or odds that are better for me. And if I take odds that are worse, I will tell you. In the historian. Yeah, so this infantry here, it should have been moved over here. Now I built the bridge here right now, but ideally I should have built it in the previous turn, because it would allow me to move a lot more units towards Brest, which would have made it much easier. So you want to build that bridge sooner. Here we're just trying to move towards a little bit further ahead towards Bialystok, but you don't have to hurry too much. You have, I think, like turn 5 till you have to take Bialystok, so you're okay. I have resupplied this unit mostly because I had the points and there was nothing else I needed to do with them. And here we're trying to take away some of these units next to Lomcha. And now this is pretty important. We're trying to get towards Alichis. I wasn't sure if there's an enemy unit, so I was trying to use my infantry to get there as quickly as possible. And you also want to get next to Grodno, so that you can step on their railway and outsupply them. So this would be really important. So we're trying to get there by using zone of control and the right positioning for our units as well. Yeah, so now, if you look at this, well, actually, we out of supplied this supply, but Bialystok is still getting supplied from the bottom here, so it's not going to allow us to out of supply Bialystok, but it's something. It's like the beginning of out of supply for Bialystok. Next thing I would really like to do is take over Alytus and out of supply Grodno from here. But again, this is something that we have to get through the enemy to do. Having this motorized unit over here is quite useful because it's going to allow us to jump forward next turn, because it's going to take one turn to step over the river, but then we'll take attacks with the railway. Now, you have two really strong airstrikes. I just used the first one on Alytus. You might be surprised that we're using it super early. I just feel like it's really important if you could take the hex near Vilnius early on. It's going to really help you out of supply. So I was trying to see if I could get there this turn. I'm not going to be able to do it, but I figured I'll try. We could take the supply, but we weren't able to get rid of the tank completely to move away, but we're at least ready for next time. Now this is also super important. What I did right now, you have an ability to either destroy 2 enemy bridges or take away their supply. Typically, if you have this ability, it's almost always better to destroy bridges, but in this case, I did not do that. Why? Well, if you take the supply hubs on Bialystok, all of this will be out of supply. This is huge because there's a bunch of units here that will be super weak. And if you can later on take over, and it just makes them really weak, essentially. And it's going to be a lot easier for you to move around here and stand over supply railways if the units here are not hitting. If they're at full strength, the maneuvering around to take over enemy supply is going to be much more difficult. So that's why I think this is a really good move. I'm sure there's other ways, so you can use the destroying bridges, but this worked out pretty well for me. You might ask, if you just took away the supply hubs, how come that didn't just place them back in upon the start of their next turn? Well, it works the same way as if you actually stepped on the supply hub. So they actually have to wait, I believe, 2 or 3 turns before they can put them back in. And obviously they don't have supply hubs elsewhere that they could put in here. This is something that we did. It worked out pretty well for us here, I must say. I'm trying to move the HQ forward so that I can utilize it next turn. So you're going to be able to see here that they didn't actually place the supply hubs back because they don't have them. Maybe they have 1, we'll see. Not even 1, okay. Now the fact that they placed their units here, right next to my motorized unit, is not ideal because I wanted to step on that supply railroad, so I probably won't be able to, but it is what it is. Now, we do need to take, let me show you, we do need to take Brest on turn 2, so right now. Now here, actually, I have taken an attack that was worse than 1-1. It was like 1-0. And the reason why I did that is because it allowed me to suppress the enemy unit here and attack Brest with the other units with good odds. You can avoid this if you were to place this unit and this unit closer to Brest, or if you build a bridge early enough so that you could surround Brest in a much better way. But I didn't, so I had to take a not ideal odds. I did a suppressive attack where I could, so you can see this first a suppressive attack, then I did an airstrike, all of that worked out. Then I did first thing was feint attack, then I did a suppressive attack with this unit. That worked out, but remember, suppressive attacks like this aren't particularly strong. They only have like 25% chance to reduce their entrenchment, and only do like very low suppression. Had I had engineers, I probably wouldn't have to do it, and I still at this point had to do an attack that wasn't very beneficial for me. But like I said, I did what I had to do. Always want to utilize overrun like I'm doing here. If you have a good chance of overrun, do overrun first. Yeah, here I actually lost an engineer unit, but it was the only thing I could, engineer specialist, which is really bad. You never really want to do it, but it is what it is. Okay, now this is great. This is an important move because this makes Bialystok out of supply completely. Now this is, you might ask, well, if you did this on this turn, was it really that important to get rid of the Bialystok in the previous turn? I believe so, because at the end of this turn, the enemies will be unsupplied for 2 turns, which will make them significantly weaker, as opposed to only 1 turn, which would still make them pretty strong the way they are right now. So I do believe that that was a really important move. Here I'm just trying to move around to make sure that the enemy can like cut me off or something, but you don't have to worry about attacking them too much because you just wait it out and they'll be weakened. So it's actually better to kind of wait it out a little bit. Yeah, same with these units over here. You don't want to attack them too much. You just kind of want to move around to make sure they don't take away your supply and get ready. Now here, let me again show you. I can just show you my supply so you can see. I'm trying to move forward in this direction because on turn 3 we need to take Grodno. That's not important. On take 4 as well, which is also elsewhere. But then we've got Minsk on turn 6. It seems like it's actually pretty far, but this is a big distance, especially if there are going to be enemy units standing in your way. So even though it's only turn 3, you really want to start thinking about it and start taking your units that have good movements, like motorized units and tanks and etc., and start moving them towards Minsk. So you can see I'm moving them here. Also, I'm going to try to take over this supply railway soon, so it's going to help me with supply. Now, we do need to take... What did I say? We need to take Grodno on turn 3, so next turn, and then Vilnius on turn 4. So I'm trying to get to an opportunity to unsupply Grodno. It's not really going to matter much because they'll be unsupplied only for 1 turn, but I feel like it's better than nothing. So you can see that I'm trying to move and push towards Vilnius here. These airplanes, I'm just doing recon. What I'm trying to do is like, look, where can I move with my tanks to outsupply them? So now you're going to be able to see that all of this is out of supply. Some of these units are actually out of supply for a second turn, which is going to be useful, but the most important thing is that Grodno is out of supply. At least for that 1 turn. I'm moving here towards Vilnius. Vilnius is still very well supplied, so we won't be able to hit it like this early, but it's a good way to sort of get ready. Also, I did like having 2 units on the supply railway. In case the enemy attacks one of them and I have to retreat, I'm still holding that supply railway with that other unit, which can be really, really useful. Here I'm trying to make sure that I have units on the supply railway, more than 1 ideally, and I'm also trying to make sure that I'm utilizing the zone of control so that they cannot step on a supply railway over here and out of supply me, which, you know, had a medium success, I would say. Here again, we want to make sure that they cannot move around to outcut you, like cut your supply, but you don't want to take too many combats with these infantry, because if you just wait them out, they will sort of lose their steps by themselves. So you don't want to provoke them. They do get some pretty good odds over here, which was not ideal. Yeah, this especially was a bit rough, but it happened. It's fine. You can see how weak these units are. Because they're out of supply for 2 turns already, they do not have an attack this turn, which is huge, because you don't have to worry about them hitting you. So really, really cool. So if I remember correctly, if a unit is fully suppressed, it doesn't have a zone of control, right? Someone confirm that in the comments, please. But I believe so. Now, we took Grodno. Let me just again quickly show you the odds. The objectives: we took Brest, we took Grodno. Now we have 1 more turn to take Vilnius. Then we have a little bit of, well, actually, then we have to take Bialystok. But Bialystok, as you can see, because everybody's out of supply, it's just about getting there. The units are no problem. So we took Grodno. We're doing some attacks where we can and hitting up the enemies. Here again, if I have good odds, I'm attacking. Otherwise, I'm just kind of standing around and keeping in control and making sure that they can't cut me off anywhere. Important. Yeah, you can see some of these units are like fully suppressed, so not all of them, just some of them, but yeah, I just wanted to see what's going on in Bialystok. So I was like, I'm just gonna move a little bit closer and just see like how strong units are there. But it's ideal to wait it out. Actually, do not go much earlier because of the fact that they're completely out of supply. Let me show you my supply. So I have 2 over here, which is going to help me. We do need to take this hex so that we have a continuous sort of supply railway. And these units are out of supply. I am not going to worry about it too much, but you do have to fix it in future turns. I did place a supply up here, so what I'm trying to do is kind of connect up here if I can. And I've got a supply that's kind of far away. I don't think I was able to place a supply up closer, but this was again not completely ideal situation. Something you want to maybe watch out for a little bit more. And here I'm taking one step at a time so that I'm not surprised by enemy unit, but I'm trying to get as quickly as possible towards Minsk. And also I'm trying to make sure that if there are units that I can see, I kill them. Because if I don't and they step over here, they will out of supply whatever I have further in that direction. Now I took control of this, but because I still don't have this hex, the supply does not connect yet to that tank over there. Yeah, now you're going to be able to see. Now all of this is supplied. Very important. Alright, here I'm trying to move some of the tanks towards Vilnius so we can get the fight started. These odds here are pretty good, so you should be able to hit them up without too much trouble. You don't have to take any bad odds over it. It's just like 1-1 or 1-0 or 2-0, whatever. This is a pretty easy area to take over. I've added another supply up to make sure that my units there will be supplied. And like I said before, I'm trying to get rid of any units that could cut off my supply here, because that would be quite bad for you. And you want to move all the motorized units in that area. Here, I'm trying to destroy the tank so that I could connect up with the motorized railway. I could have actually moved the motorized railway. Honestly, I just kind of forgot about it. I could have moved it to a way better position. It was like, ah. But you know, sometimes that happens. And see, they're getting the supply hubs back that we took them over from Bialystok at this point, so they can place them again. But Bialystok is already kind of dead for them, so it's fine. Alright, we do need to take Vilnius here. So you can see this is by turn 4, so we're going to take it over right now. Took it. Great. It's mine. And then the idea here is that the original idea I had was that I'm going to take these units and move them towards Minsk as well. But it turns out that because they're well supplied in this area, fairly well, even though these 3 units are not, it's actually really hard to move here. And this is why I'm always so much focusing on supply, because this is a much shorter distance than, well, from here, for example, right? But because the enemy has well supplied there, getting from here to here is almost impossible in the 2 turns that we have, because they're so well protected and they do have that supply. That's why it's so important to auto supply enemies, because otherwise you won't be able to do these big distances. And if you watch my guides, you know that the hardest thing I always find in this game is just getting to a certain point. It's not like taking over that point. That's easy. It's just like getting there. Because you often have targets that are very far and not really that many turns to get there. Especially when it comes to the bonus objectives. So you really got to think about it in advance. Alright, here, the taking over Lida, what it did, it was allow me to take away some of the supply, because you're gonna see this is out of supply. Once I move this tank forward, which is gonna happen really soon, all of the 4 supply hubs that they very carefully placed over here are gonna be completely useless. So this was a huge move. And again, some of these units are fully suppressed, so we're just kind of hitting them up where we can. As always, make sure you utilize overrun. So always look at the overrun chances. Oftentimes I have one unit that is like 30% chance overrun to the second one 90% chance, so just make sure you do it in the right order, because it's really good if you can essentially get multiple attacks in one turn. This was important because I needed to make sure that the units on Grodno are supplied. Okay, this with Bialystok. So I did this a little early. You could have waited, but I had the command point, so I used the set piece attack to kind of get this started. Yeah, now we have taken over Bialystok, so that's good. And here again, just getting rid of the units where I can. Just because they're weak, and it's always a good decision. And you're getting XP, so it's not like a pointless. It's not just because you could be worried about them taking over your supply, but it's also because they just... you're getting the XP, so you could level yourself up to elite or something. Unless you already are elite, in which case it's just so good. But I don't think we're elite just yet on a lot of these units. Let me check. Yeah, this is just regular. So for example, these guys need a lot of upgrades to go to elite. Yeah, these guys just level up to veteran. And it makes a really big difference in this game, whether it is regular, veteran, or elite. It might sound like it's not a big deal. It is a really huge deal. So you really want to make sure that where you can, you want to upgrade. If you're playing on a higher difficulty, I would even recommend to just like be looking. For example, because sometimes I have an enemy nearby like here. And for example, this unit, and I could attack it with this unit, or this unit. They could all get there, and presumably they would all get fairly good odds. So a really good tip would be to look at the experience they have. And for example, if one of them is elite, don't use that one. Again, on normal and easy difficulty, this is not something you have to worry about that much. But if you're playing on like the harder difficulties, it's really important to look into that and make sure that you're not sort of wasting attacks with elite units if a regular or veteran unit could do the same, because the level up is so important. Now let me just show you again. All of this out of supply for the enemy. This was huge because this entire area up to here actually became out of supply. So even these stronger units up here became out of supply. It's not going to be that helpful to get to Minsk because they have a bunch over here. So for these units to get down here, it's not going to be that easy. But it definitely helps you immensely if you can remove their supply. But you have to destroy enemy infantry in these areas so that they don't, or any other enemy units, so that they don't cut off your supply, because then you would be out of supply and that'd be bad for you, so obviously. I even managed to actually step on their supply hub. I love to do that. Stepping on enemy supply hub is huge because it takes them 3 turns to get the supply hubs back. So you can really make sure that they will stay out of supply for a very long time. So you always want to do that if you can. Similarly, a good thing is to step on enemy HQ, because then they won't be able to use like the special attacks. However, that's not typically that easy, because if you're trying to step on an HQ, it takes you extra movement points, so oftentimes you won't be able to do it. But again, if you can, do it. I'm just moving my HQs a little bit closer so that I could use their abilities later on if needed. It's turn 5. At this turn we need to have Bialystok, which we already have. And then we have 1 more turn for Minsk. So this is exactly what I was trying not to make happen. Let me just show you. This is what we've been trying to avoid. We didn't avoid it well enough. How could you make sure you avoided it better? Maybe used a bit more recon. That's fine. The bad thing especially is because I placed a supply hub here, which is now useless, but it is what it is. It happens. It's not gonna like somewhat strongly negatively impact our performance, but you know, it's something to keep in mind. Try to avoid if you can. Yeah. All right. Yeah, this was still me like thinking I'm gonna get to Minsk. It's fine. I have 2 turns. From the top, which, yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. But it's gonna be fine from the bottom. Just from the top, it's not gonna go as well as maybe I hoped. But you don't know. When you play, you don't know how many units are gonna be there, so you actually don't know whether the bottom or the top part is easier. I mean, I guess you now know because I'm telling you. But, you know, there's some randomness to how the enemy moves, so it can change a little bit. But, you know, yeah. Again, just getting rid of enemy weak units. Again, you can't just wait till they sort of run out of steps and I guess disperse by themselves, but don't do that because of the experience. Now this is just me decimating them when where I can. Just God. So interesting that even though it was an attack over river, we still had good odds. That doesn't happen very often. I also like to step on the prisoners. Oh, this time we managed to step on their HQ, which was really cool. Because if you step on the prisoners, they won't be able to get back to their HQ, so they will not be able to use them in future scenarios. However, I'm not really sure how much the scenarios are connected for the enemy. It definitely means they can use them in this scenario, but Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how well it's connected for the enemies, so how much that actually matters. Again, if you know, you can write it in the comments. Alright, so I needed to get rid of this infantry unit, make sure I'm connected up. And I'm moving towards Minsk as much as I can. We do have one more turn for Minsk, so it's not completely crazy to do it. It's gonna be fine. Now at this point I was actually looking at the objective and I actually kind of realized that, hey, I sort of forgot about Minsk here. Because this infantry that I haven't been moving very much, it should have been moving towards Minsk, so we're going to start doing that very soon. Then you need to take Borisov over here and Barbarossa over here. This is just, you know, splitting the motorized units in each direction. Also, you might want to use some recons to look like where the enemy units are, because it might be the case, hint hint, nudge nudge, I think is what you say, that one of these will be completely unprotected. So use your recon to find out. That's exactly what you're going to find that I did very soon. And moving the supply hubs around a little bit. The thing about the supply hub here is like it wasn't necessary because this is all on a railway and then we just need the supply hubs closer to that area. So that's what I did. And yup. Doing pretty well here. Yeah, one more turn for Minsk and then we've got 3 more turns for the other stuff, Borisov and so on. So should be okay. Let's see. Yeah, they had some defense around Minsk. Alright, this time we have to take Minsk. So the important part here is to try to utilize the best order of attacks. Obviously you want to start with attacks that are strong and then continuing. You might want to use an airstrike. There's always a risk with airstrike that the city will become ruined, which gives them better defense. So airstrike are a little risky if an enemy is in a city. But sometimes it's just the only thing you have. We actually didn't even need to do it here. We had some extra. We still had some motorized units as a backup that we could have used if need be. But we were able to take it off pretty easy. Now here I'm moving towards Minsk. I have a couple units that are moving here and a couple units that are moving sort of around to go towards the bridge. Again, I don't know how well the defense is, so I'm just going to try to move all of the infantry around there to get there. Also, ideally, you want to move the HQ a bit closer as well, so that if I need to do things like set-piece attacks or feint attacks, I'm able to do so. Here, what I'm doing with this infantry is just I'm trying to make sure that I'm standing on the supply railway, because as you can see, some of these units were out of supply because I wasn't really focusing on that. So you want to make sure that you don't like use a unit just because you weren't paying attention. So just always make sure that. Yeah, okay, this, by the way, you might notice that I left Vilnius open. Vilnius is not a main objective, and you don't have to hold it. So I was like, I'm just gonna walk away, it doesn't matter. If they take it, I can take it back. Not that I need to, I can just leave it for them as well, but I could take it back if need be. Here, I was trying to see if I could move this tank to get towards Barbarossa this way, but then the unit on Slotsk is fairly strong, and I was like, probably not gonna need it, so whatever. Here we can see that there was one unit next to the objective. Well, we'll get back to it when it's time. In front of Borisov, there's like one unit standing, but it's gonna be a pretty easy thing to get rid of. Yeah, they're placing a lot more enemy units to protect it, but remember you do have 2 more turns, so it's not too bad. And I'm moving towards Pink. I've realized here that there's actually nobody there. So we will be able to take it next turn very, very easily. No problems. Just walk over. And I moved the supply up closer so that the units there will be in supply. Here I used the recon because I had ones to kind of look whether there are any enemy units that they're not. So I just used the motor units, took Barbarossa and down. Again, I'm immediately leaving Barbarossa because I don't need it. So just walk away. There's no need to fight there. We do have to worry about Borisov here, so just doing some attacks. trying to get there as quickly as possible. Ideally, we would like to take it this turn. We have one more turn to spare. But if you can get it early, that's good. We'll see. Yeah, I'm using an airstrike, and then... Yeah, not this turn, but soon. Just, you know, killing enemies where I can. I was really trying to get that supply up because I thought it would be cool. Again, it's not necessary, but it's like, can I get it? Yes, I can. Kind of makes me happy. Alright, one last turn to get Borisov and Pinks. I think it's called Pinks. They're doing nothing. I love it when the enemy does nothing. That's great. Makes you feel like super accomplished. Like there's nothing for them to do except take it. I like that. Alright, so we took Borisov. Beautiful. We still have to take Pinks. Pinks is not out yet. So. Again, killing enemy units where I can. Pinks down. Yeah, and this is just like killing off enemy units. Nothing particularly important here. The one thing you have to keep in mind is that you do have to keep Minsk because it's the main objective. So, so I have some units up here to kind of protect it, but because there's a river around, it's going to be hard for them to get over there and kind of take you by surprise, so it's not too hard. Bialystok is kind of a walk in the park once you get them to be out of supply, so nothing to worry about. I had still the super strong airstrike, so I was like, I gotta use it some point. So I was like, let's use it now. But you can see that it was left over till the end. So if you're struggling somewhere, you can use it early. Just remember, airstrike on cities gets cities in ruin, which gives the defender a big bonus. Which doesn't necessarily mean that you can use it. Like the super strong airstrike would probably still be good on a city because you give them so much damage that even though they get the city in ruins bonus, they'll go, for example, from 7 strong steps to like 2. So even the bonus won't be enough, but it's something you kind of have to keep in mind. So yeah, we finished all the objectives on turn 8. Everything is perfect. We are done. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, write down in the comments, and you can click on the right to watch the next episode. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.